All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our very first virtual info session of the academic year. My name is Sarah Birch. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis. This first session today is going to be a really high-level overview of the Brown School and our master's programs in social work, public health, and social policy. We're going to cover a lot of different types of topics today, so I want to be sure that we answer any questions that you have. We've received quite a few questions from viewers before we've started this live session, so if you were someone who submitted a question beforehand, thank you so much for submitting those. But we'd also love for you to submit questions during the live session if you're watching with us live right now. So you can use the Q&A function to submit a question. And as we get started here, if you could, let's just practice using the Q&A by opening the Q&A and submitting a couple questions in there for us. And you can submit a question by saying, hi, my name is, and your hometown, so we can see if we can get the Q&A function to work. Awesome, thanks Adam, welcome. Looks like it's working, they're all coming in. Wonderful. Thanks everyone. So while we're practicing with the Q&A, I'm going to turn it over to my panelists who I'm really excited to have with me today. This is really going to be their show a little bit too, because I'm joined by some current Brown School students who are going to share their experiences thus far at the Brown School. So I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves. We'll start with Deja, and if you can, just share your name, your program, your pronouns, year, concentration, specialization, hometown, and if this semester, since we are in a weird COVID time, if you're remote learning or if you're a hybrid student. And Deja, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Deja. I use pronouns, and I am a first year dual MSW MPH student. And so for public health, my specialization is a generalist, and my concentration is kind of undetermined right now. I'm looking at social and domestic social and economic development or individualizing. And then I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And this semester I'm doing the hybrid track.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a first year student in the MSW program, so just started a couple weeks ago as well. I haven't yet decided my concentration, but I'm looking at mental health or possibly individualizing. And I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and that's where I am right now. I'm remote learning.
And I am Jay, and I am a second year MSW student. I use they, them pronouns. I'm concentrating in mental health. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, and all my classes are online right now, but later in the semester I will have a 1-credit skill lab in person.
Hi, my name is Kais. You can call me Q. I'm a second year MPH student specialized in epidemiology and biostatistics. My hometown is Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I'm currently remote learning from Saudi Arabia.
Awesome, thank you all so much. And thank you again for joining me today as we talk about our programs. So what I'd like to begin with is these values: dedicated to equity and committed to impact. These values are what you'll hear these often when we talk about our school, and that's because our faculty and staff are committed to translating research and the work that we do into actionable solutions. So not just doing research for research's sake, but ensuring that the work is then translated into programs, policies, practice solutions that are having a real impact, and not only an impact, but a positive one on the communities that we serve. To give a little bit more detail about our programs. So we at the Brown School have 3 primary programs that we offer graduate options in: social work, public health, and social policy. Our social work programs have options for the full Master of Social Work program, an advanced standing Master of Social Work program, a 3-2 program in social work, and that's for current WashU students who would like to stay at WashU and add on the social work degree, and then PhD in social work. We also have a Master of Public Health program, a 3-2 program in public health. There is now an advanced standing Master of Public Health program and a PhD in public health sciences. And then we have our dual degree options, and this is where the social policy program comes into play. Anyone who is a current student at the Brown School or would like to apply to the Brown School in social work or public health can add on the social policy program to their degree. Likewise, if you're a social work student and want to add public health, or you're a public health student and want to add on social work, you can do that. There are an infinite amount of ways that you can do some transdisciplinary work at the Brown School. And these are just some of the ways that you can do that by choosing a dual degree option. Deja is actually a dual degree student, she mentioned, and so she can talk a little bit about that if you have questions about what it's like to be dual degree or the application process. Just a note about our university as well. So the Brown School is one of 7 schools at Washington University in St. Louis. WashU is a premier research university and a global leader in teaching, research, patient care, and service to society. So you'll see that while you're at WashU, you have access to all of these schools and programs that are doing a lot of really wonderful work. And something that I really love and admire about our university is how collaborative and transdisciplinary a place it is. So even as a student at the Brown School, if you'd like, you can interact and even take classes in some of these other schools. So just some numbers for you to get a sense of what we have to offer at the Brown School. So again, 3 graduate programs, a Master of Social Work, a Master of Public Health, and a Master of Social Policy. We have an 11-to-1 student to faculty ratio, meaning that there are infinite possibilities for interacting with faculty, not just in the classroom, but through research, through mentoring, in informal and formal ways. We have an abundance of research centers, 15 faculty affiliated research centers at the Brown School, as well as 3 community-based research centers. We have over 17 student groups and leadership opportunities, so lots of opportunity to get involved outside of the classroom and with peers that share interests or identities that you share. And 100% of students who request merit-based scholarship will receive a scholarship award at the time that they are admitted. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Here is the student body profile for our students who joined us this fall. So we had 246 new students join us this fall at the Brown School, either completely online or in a hybrid format. Age ranges are from 20 to 58 with a median age of 23. So we have a lot of diverse perspectives and folks coming from all walks of life. 13% of our students this year are international students representing 15 countries. 37% of our students are students of color, and 41% are first generation, either undergraduate or graduate level students. I'd like to provide just a little bit of some context around what these fields are that we study and what they mean to us. So social work is a field that's aiming aimed at improving the overall well-being of populations, especially those that are historically underserved. And we, as social workers, can address these issues at micro, meso, or macro levels of impact. So regardless of the type of impact that you'd like to make, the Brown School recognizes that there are professionals and practitioners needed at all of these levels. Public health is the science of promoting and protecting the health of people and the communities where they live, learn, and play. And social policy is a discipline that examines and promotes social and health equity for humans locally, nationally, and internationally. And so for my panelists, I know each of you represent a range of perspectives and also a range of the programs that we have to offer. And often in my career, I get asked, what do you do? And so in grad school, I'm sure you get that question too. What is social work, or what is public health, or what is it that you're gonna do? So how would a few of you describe social work and public health? And we'll start with Jay.
So when I get asked that question, I first say that I was drawn to social work because it's a profession that is just as much about the work that I do as much as it is about the communities that I work with and the individuals I work with. It's a helping profession, but that doesn't mean that we insert ourselves as the role of the sole person who can build communities up, but rather it's about creating strategic partnerships, whether it's with individuals, with policymakers, or community organizations, and anywhere in between, to really help make individuals' lives better on every single level.
Hugh, how would you describe public health?
I think me being both a physician and now a public health student, I see it more as a macro level where you address the issues within the community, within the country, or the healthcare system. Especially now with COVID-19 happening, I think public health is becoming more and more important just to understand the community and creating the impact within it. I admire that part of it, that it's no longer about just one person contact, but it's macro level, creating impact for generation actually in a wide spectrum.
That's great, thank you. Thank you both for those responses. Emily or Deja, anything differently that you would add, especially coming very fresh into these programs and having kind of a sense of why you decided to enter the fields?
I think Jay and Q said it really well. One thing I would add for public health is this understanding that, like, for me, public health was interesting because it opened up this world where we can look at all of the interactions between the different aspects of people's environment. So we could think about what they're eating, what their physical environment looks like, what their social environment looks like, the political environment, and seeing how that shapes their health and well-being. And so public health has so many different subdisciplines or areas where you can explore how a certain community is being impacted by a variety of issues.
Yeah, definitely. And I would just echo what Jay said about social work by just saying, like, part of what attracted me to social work is that it can be such a range of professions, but it's really just so many different professions where you work with people to increase their access to services and try to reduce barriers that might be affecting people's quality of life, and just helping people have a better quality of life in a variety of ways.
Thank you. I love all of those answers, and I think they all really do speak to a lot of the reasons why our students are here. Where all of our students are really brought under, for different reasons, but this shared passion and this shared desire to really make an impact in places where it matters the most. So I do want to kind of talk a little bit more about this and touch on why we brought social work, public health, and social policy professionals under one roof. It's unique to find these programs paired together, but they are complementary fields with shared values, as we've kind of discussed. We believe that the fields of social work and public health are intrinsically linked, and that social policy can elevate those fields as well by bringing them at a macro level to impact folks on an even wider scale. And as we all know, COVID-19 has brought into focus just how much health can impact income inequality, racial health disparities, mental health issues, and along with that policy piece, how policies have either failed or been inadequate to address these issues. And so the Brown School is a place where we're thinking about how all of these complex issues really play together and what we can do to bring in the knowledge and expertise of all of these different fields to create solutions for these really complex issues. I love this quote from one of our faculty members, Betta Sanders-Thompson. She talks about how if we have disparities in areas like income, education, we'll also have disparities in health. And so we have to address all sides in order to come up with solutions that really get at the heart of why these issues exist and why they continue to exist in our communities. I'd love to hear from our panelists, if you could talk a little bit about, was having these three fields, these three programs under one roof, was it part of your reason for choosing the Brown School, and what do you feel like are the benefits? And maybe Deja, I'll start with you since you are a dual degree student.
So yeah, since I'm a dual degree student, it played a really big role in how I felt about the Brown School. So when you are in a dual social work and public health program at most other universities, maybe you're at the same university, but you're housed in different schools on different parts of campus. Or even for some programs, you're at completely separate universities. And so there's a very physical separation in your experience. One year you're at public health, another year you're with social work, and then sometimes depending on the setup, there can be like a merging of both in another year. But the Brown School, that physical integration isn't a barrier. You're all under the same physical roof or roofs since there's multiple buildings. And that creates the opportunity for you to more easily focus on the integrating of the actual skills and concepts that you're learning. And it also creates the space, as someone who wasn't overtly interested in policy, you get to interact with people who really have that policy focus and learn about how that impacts the work that you might be doing on the ground with communities. And so you can have this more well-rounded, holistic view of the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Deja. Anyone else, was there something about having these three fields in the same program? Yeah, Jay, I'd love to hear from you.
I would say that at a lot of other, my cat has decided to join us. Sorry. At a lot of other universities also, concentrations in social work are meso or macro. And either you're focusing on policy or you're focusing on direct practice. And having the Master of Social Policy program and the public health program as part of the Brown School really helped me see that mental health, which is my concentration, is really a matter of individual, community, and policy level work, and that you can't necessarily separate any of those because they all impact each other, and that there's a place for all of those social workers within the mental health field and within the field of social work and in the other fields as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that even though, we may be working in very separate parts of this whole kind of continuum of how we deliver services and make an impact, that they're all speaking to each other all the time and they're all having an impact on each other. So it's important to know how policy might impact the work that you're doing at an individual level, and likewise how maybe the individual service you are providing is showing up in the communities that you're serving because of other things that might be coming into play. So now I want to talk a little bit about our curriculum, and it really was designed to be different. We use an evidence-based approach at the Brown School, which means for us, it's really important to look at research and to understand from science what works, what we know to be true, and apply that to practice. We work from an anti-oppressive framework, meaning that we want to ensure that the work we are doing does not further oppress groups that have been historically underserved or more marginalized. As we've thoroughly discussed already, it's a transdisciplinary curriculum, so the problem-solving approaches come from multiple different perspectives to drive really comprehensive and sustainable solutions. We prepare our students for a whole slew of career trajectories, from both more traditional careers in social work and public health to more new and non-traditional careers. We have a very flexible curriculum, and you'll see that a little bit as we detail the concentration and specialization areas in each of the programs. Skill labs, which I know Jay mentioned, they're gonna have one in person later this semester. These are really great ways to get some really tangible, applicable skills in a very short amount of time. So they're quick, short, like 1 credit hour courses that you can take that really dovetail nicely into the things that you're learning at maybe a practice or theoretical level in the other classes. And then of course, all of the courses, we really want to drive home this idea that all of the work that we do is driving equity at the social, racial, economic, and health levels. So let's talk a little bit about, and I'm going to pull up something here. Okay, the Master Social Work program. So first, just to begin, it's a 2-year program for those who are joining the full MSW program. If you're advanced standing, you could complete it in just 12 months or 16 months. So that's a fall, spring, summer, or a fall, spring, summer, fall. And 60 credit hours for those who are completing it full time. There's a lot of flexibility in the social work program, and you'll see that through the concentration and specialization offerings. We have 10 concentrations in the MSW program with an option to individualize. So if there isn't something there that is exactly in line with what you'd like to study, or maybe you see a few things on this list that really stand out to you and you'd like to combine in some sort of a unique way, you can do that too through the individualized track. Some of these concentrations too, I'd like to note that the children, youth, and families concentration, as well as the mental health concentration, have different tracks within the concentration, so you can focus your studies a little bit more. Children, youth, and families has tracks in school social work, direct practice, and urban education. And mental health has 4 different tracks: clinical social work, integrated behavioral health, child behavioral health, and substance use disorder, social or mental health. So a lot of different ways that you can individualize and kind of customize your journey through the Brown School and the curriculum. And if that's not enough for you, we also have specialization areas for the MSW program, which you can kind of think of as like a minor. So these are 6 optional specializations that you can add on to your concentration. And it just gives you a way to add a little bit more expertise to your studies. If you know that you want to go into research, for example, maybe you're going to pursue a PhD after you have completed the master's program, you might choose the research specialization. System dynamics is a really unique specialization in which we're looking at how systems interact and intersect with each other to impact outcomes for folks. It's a really cool science, and we have an entire research center devoted to looking at system dynamics. The sexual health and education specialization is really unique, and one of the things that draws a lot of our students to the Brown School because it's one of the only social work programs that has a sexual health and education content or specialization. So lots of ways to individualize your journey. As for the Master of Public Health program, it is a 2-year program, 52 credit hours. If you are entering from a Bachelor of Public Health program, you can apply to be advanced standing and have up to 9 credit hours applied toward your degree. In the MPH program, we have 6 specializations, including a generalist specialization. I kind of like to equate that one to the individualized, although it's a little different in the MPH program. You're going to get a nice breadth of information and knowledge from the generalist specialization, whereas the other 5 are a little bit more focused in specific subject areas. And then there is an optional MPH certificate program in violence and injury prevention. So for my panelists, let's talk about kind of the classes you've experienced thus far. What is your general impression of the curriculum? What's been your favorite class? And we'll start with Hugh and then we'll go to Emily.
Sure. I think overall I was kind of scared about the fact that I'm going to be taking biostatistics, epidemiology, and how advanced the courses might be. But once I stepped in the classroom, the professor is actually very aware of the variety of levels in the classroom. Like some people are very much beginners, some people are advanced. So they make sure to introduce the material gradually, and they're willing to somehow address all the questions that you have. So that was something that I was really interested in, and I was lucky to have them teaching us in that way, allowing us to learn them. The second thing is, like now they're becoming more internationally aware, the classes. So you'll see a lot of our faculty are working not only in the US, but also abroad. So a lot of the examples that they might give are not only US based, but also they share some of their experience abroad, how they troubleshoot those problems and all those things. So me coming from abroad, I really appreciated that. And I know a lot of my colleagues that are interested in global health, they really appreciate that element in the classroom. Yeah, that's my overall. I think it's overall good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say just having been in class for a few weeks, the curriculum is definitely rigorous, but it's also so accessible and flexible. I think like for my classes, the professors really want to be on an equal footing with the students. So there's a lot of flexibility. We're all kind of learning together. With students are often like facilitating classes, which is really fun. And we'll do things like give feedback on the syllabi, talk about what readings we would like to do and incorporate into the class. So it's really, I think, empowering for everyone. And the other thing I have been loving about the curriculum is I think it's very critical, and it looks a lot at like the history of social work and sort of which movements and efforts like have and haven't been recognized. So I've been really enjoying that part of the curriculum as well.
Great, thank you both so much. And I'd like to follow up and just ask, because I know class is a little different this year. The world is a little different this year. So what has the classroom experience been like since we've had to put these public health protocols in place for COVID-19? Jay, if you want to talk about, especially since you started last year when we were fully in person and now we've transitioned, how is that translated for you in a classroom capacity?
So I definitely thrive in classes where you have discussion with other students. And I was really concerned when we transitioned to online learning that it would be very frontal-based learning with the professor lecturing or us watching videos and not a lot of interaction. And I really have found that over the past semester and a couple weeks, that professors have learned a lot about the different Zoom functionality options and have really been concerned in a positive way with disability, accessibility, and understanding that we have different modes of learning, which as a former educator, I find I'm just very grateful for. There's lots of breakout rooms, there's lots of opportunities to facilitate discussions in my classes, and yeah, it's been really positive overall. And I think there was plenty of time to learn over the summer, and I found that all the faculty that I interact with really took advantage of that time.
That's great. Thanks, Jay. I know that this year certainly is not ideal for any of us, but it's really good to hear that, you know, your experiences as students has been that faculty care and they are doing their very best to ensure that you're still getting the most that you can out of the classroom experience and that it's been positive. So thank you for that. I do want to shed some light now on our dual degree programs after we've talked about the two, the Master of Social Work and the Master of Public Health. We also have dual degree options with social policy, or you can combine the social work and public health program as Deja has. We also have joint degree options between our social work and public health programs and a plethora of other programs across Washington University, as well as in partnership with the Eden Theological Seminary in St. Louis. So for folks who are interested in some of these different fields and would like to uniquely combine, say, law and social work or business and public health, there are options to do that at Washington University. To apply, you would have to apply to both the Brown School and the other program. Same goes for the dual degree programs. You'll submit 2 separate applications to each of the programs, but then you're admitted to both at the same time as a dual or joint degree student. And just a little bit about the MSP dual degree. So it's an additional 31 credit hours added to your course of study in the social work or public health program. If you have a graduate degree from another institution, for example, from one of our partner institutions in China, or if you have a graduate degree from truly any other institution across the nation, you can add the MSP dual degree to your studies. You'll be taking these types of courses in the MSP program, and it's just 1 additional year of study. Core courses in policy analysis, statistics, economics, and then electives that range across a variety of topics from health economics to social entrepreneurship. I'm going to talk now a little bit about our 3-tiered advising approach. So every student who comes to the Brown School is supported by 3 advisors, and this is a network of support kind of bolstered both by the formal advisors you'll have and the informal advisors you'll find through faculty and other administrators, where you can find guidance throughout your Brown School experience. All 3 of these folks, of course, since we are kind of working in a remote capacity, are going to be available to you online, either via email or you can set up Zoom sessions with them. But you'll have an academic advisor to help with course scheduling and planning and to make sure that you are meeting all of your course requirements to get everything done on time to graduate. You'll have a faculty advisor to connect you with what you're learning in the classroom to opportunities outside of the classroom. And this will be someone who's closely linked to your concentration or specialization area. And then you'll also have access to field education advisors. You won't be assigned one specific advisor, but you'll have access to all of the advisors who offer daily drop-in hours. I think they've been doing those virtually now as well. And they offer support as you kind of work through the practicum component of your degree program. To touch on a little bit more about faculty, our faculty are incredible. They are renowned scholars who have written the textbooks and are leading the research in their fields. And luckily for you, they are going to be your mentors and advisors while you're at the Brown School. You get paired with, as I said, a dedicated faculty advisor, but you'll also be making really wonderful informal connections with faculty along the way as you take classes and if you want to get involved in research. So lots of ways to interact with our our faculty. I'd love to hear from Q and then probably Jay, if you want to talk about any faculty mentorship opportunities you've had. And then I think we could also probably hear from Emily or Deja about your experience with your advisors thus far. So we'll start with Q.
Just reflecting on the first year that I had, I think I really admired the fact that they have an open door policy. So you can always knock the door on any faculty and they're willing to talk to you. You can stop them in corridors, they're still willing to talk to you, which is quite nice, yeah, to have. The second thing is the faculty advisors and field advisors. I think because you start with them the year, within your first year, you're gonna be sit with them. They're really familiar with your interest, where you want to work, and they build that connection with you. So I remember my field advisor when I was choosing my practicum, she was really aware of what I want, and whenever there was a site that does not really reflect what my interest is, she would just tell me, avoid these places and focus on these two companies, for example, to apply to. The same with the academic advisor, you literally get signed from day one with them. And mine is like Dr. Daniela, and she's amazing. She would sit with you one-to-one, tell you, don't do this, do this. And I like that, it feels like a family member, not like a faculty or someone to be afraid of. So I admire them for that. They earn my respect through their friendship and their approachability, but not through something else. Yeah. So I think this is one of the key values that I really appreciated in the Brown School is the open door policy, just finding faculty always available for you at any time. Who's next?
Emily, if you want to talk a little bit about, or Deja, about what it's been like for you, especially kind of coming in remote, having an advisor and what that experience has been like in a remote setting.
Yeah, definitely. I think the advisor, my advisor has been kind of a lifesaver, I think, especially because with the remote option for learning, some of the order of classes is a little bit different than it would be, since I'm not in person, I'm not taking one of the practice courses that some of the in-person students are taking. So my advisor has just been so responsive and great, helping me sort of get everything straight to make sure I'm getting all the classes I need to take this semester and next semester. He helped me get into an elective that I didn't think that I would be qualified to take, helped me talk to the professor and last minutely switch into an elective that I am really excited to be taking. And also is going to be working with me to hopefully individualize my concentration. So I think having that sort of go-to person to help you navigate all of the amazing options that there are at the Brown School is so helpful, especially when you're feeling kind of detached by being remote.
That's great. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. Pressing right along, so I want to touch a little bit on research opportunities because as a premier research institution, WashU is leading so many different research endeavors, and especially now during the current situation we're in with COVID-19, there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of experts who are tasked with figuring out how we navigate the virus. And so the Brown School has certainly been a part of those conversations and that research and work. As a student, you have a lot of opportunities to get involved in research if you'd like. And our centers are doing so much, so many different types of research. So it's not, just public health or medicine. It's social work research too. We're looking at all different types of issues through the centers. We have 15 that you can explore on our website. They're all led by faculty. As I mentioned, there are opportunities with the medical campus in partnership with the School of Medicine, in partnership with our Institute for Public Health, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, RSVP, which is our Relationship and Sexual Violence Prevention Center on WashU's campus. And then also opportunities to get involved in community-based initiatives and getting co-authored spots on papers and conferences. So lots of ways to be involved in research if that is something that you'd like to be involved in. Q, I know you're involved in some research. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looked like for you?
So I started my research experience in the summer as part of my practicum, and now I'm also part of it. I was working with Dr. Trani, Professor Jean-Francois Trani, and he's working with a project between South Africa, Afghanistan, and the United States. So it's really interesting about dementia in the elderly population and how the community affects them. So you see a lot of social work, a lot of health economics, a lot of developmental economics, and health and medicine. So it's been an interesting experience now with COVID-19 because a lot of the work is being through emails and Zoom calls. And I think you build that connection with the professor as well about how, what your needs are and how they can help you troubleshoot any problems you have. Or they can redirect you, for example, to our skill lab that is dedicated for students to troubleshoot any problems with your statistics or epidemiological analysis. And I think overall it was a great experience. Maybe not as ideal as being in person, but it was really an enjoyable experience for me. And I learned a lot during it.
Yeah, that's great. I know that COVID-19 has kind of halted some of the research that's been happening for health and safety reasons of folks who are not only conducting the research, but then also for those who are participating in research, because we're working with our communities and we want to ensure that everyone is safe. But it's great that technology is still allowing us to, folks to collaborate and interact in that way so that a lot of this important work can still be done just in a remote capacity. To talk a little bit about field education. So everyone who's at the Brown School, whether you're in the public health program, social policy, or social work, will complete a practicum. It's an internship if you're doing the social policy program. But a way for you to gain meaningful professional experience in a variety of settings. Again, as a caveat to this year, COVID-19 has changed a little bit about of how we are able to interact with the communities and organizations we serve through Practica, but our Office of Field Education has been really wonderful in partnering with our partner sites to ensure that we can still allow our students to get that really valuable experience, but in a way that is safe to them and safe to the clients or organization and communities that they're serving through the site. It's a really self-selected process, so you find your own practicum site, but of course with the guidance of the field education team. And there are over 400 sites to choose from, so a lot of ways to get this hands-on experience. And if there's something that is not there for you, there's a way to petition to add a new site. So if you know of something that would be really valuable to your learning, you can petition to add that. Jay, can you talk a little bit about what your practicum experience has been like and kind of what what working with field education was like for you?
Definitely. So I have a bit of a unique concentration practicum situation where I actually have two concentration practica. One is at a local synagogue where I am helping with their mental health initiatives in conjunction with and partnership with a local homeless shelter, and really making that into a partnership. And another where I'm working at the Missouri History Museum in the field of disability accessibility. And my concentration is mental health, but I see mental health from a community level as being impacted by a lot of social aspects, parts of our society, like access to museums or access to affordable housing. And that's really a non-traditional approach to working in a mental health focused part of the field. So I worked with my field advisor as well as Jenny Harpring in the Office of Field Education to really make sure that these non-traditional settings could provide me with the supervision and the valuable experience that I need, with the knowledge that mental health is really a part of everything that we do. And that if I do decide to pursue licensure, that I'm able to connect with professionals in the field and get some of that supervision from that angle as well.
That's great. And I really love that example too of your unique experience, because it really does showcase just how flexible and how broad the options are for your field education experience, and that the Brown School is really dedicated to helping you find something that fits your unique passions, because we do want our students to be able to go into fields that maybe are a little more non-traditional, places where we haven't seen social workers traditionally before. So I really love that example, Jay. I'm going to quickly go through the rest of our slides because I want to be mindful of time and get to questions that were submitted beforehand. So first, to just highlight, hopefully this showcases just how many different student supports we have at the Brown School. All of the supports that you see that are in that kind of tealish green color are offices or teams that are dedicated to ensuring that your experience at the Brown School is a successful one. So whether it's an academic support or ways that you can get involved beyond the classroom through student groups, professional development, getting involved with the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, whatever your passion is and whatever support you would like while you're at the Brown School, you can bet it's available. And if it's not, there is a way to try to, see what we can do, because our dean is very open and willing to hear any concerns from students. So the supports you see that are in the grayish blue are all opportunities to interact with our dean. We want to ensure that students are having a good time at the Brown School. We know that we're an imperfect place and that there's always work to be done and improvements to be made. And so we're very receptive to student voices and hope that you'll utilize all of these supports during your time at the Brown School. One of the supports I do want to highlight is our career services team. We have our very own in-house Office of Career Services that we're very fortunate to have. It's a team dedicated to working just with Brown School students, so they're very knowledgeable on career opportunities that are available in the fields of social work, public health, and social policy. And they offer all of these different types of services in sessions and advising hours to help you prepare for stepping into the professional world, especially after you graduate. And something to note too is that this is a lifelong service. So even as an alum, you'll have access to these supports through career services. And this is just a very small, non-exhaustive list of the types of organizations that our students have gone on to work. So many different types of organizations and career paths that you can follow once you've received your graduate degree from the Brown School. Because this is such an important part of considering to go to grad school, I did want to include this part about funding your degree. We're going to have a virtual info session next month on October 15th about submitting a strong application. So we hope that you'll join us for that one so we can dive in a little deeper about the application process. But to note here, we do have a variety of ways that students can fund their graduate education while they're here. I mentioned that all who are wanting to be considered for merit-based scholarship will receive a merit-based scholarship if they're admitted to the program. Those are partial tuition awards. And so students will fund the rest of tuition and other living expenses through a variety of these other resources. So scholarships from external organizations, fellowship opportunities, work study, part-time employment. Something that isn't noted specifically here, but we do have a need-based scholarship program as well. That is a separate application, so you can be considered for that too. Okay, so I'm gonna now stop sharing my screen so we can answer some of these questions that were submitted beforehand. I definitely want to make sure we have time to get through these. Hopefully we can get to some of the ones that are being submitted live. So please feel free to submit some questions. And if we do have time in these next 10 minutes, we'll get to you. The first question was, are there any classes or resources for those wanting to study forensic or criminal justice social work? So while there is not a specific concentration in criminal justice social work or forensic social work, there are opportunities to get connected to this type of work, specifically through your practicum. And so that's something that you can discuss with your field education. I know students who are interested in this work take a variety of different pathways to it. Some might be interested in mental health. Others might be interested in social and economic development. So you can use one of those concentration areas to kind of lay a foundation for the work that you want to do, and then add on elective courses or practicum opportunities that will kind of bolster your specific interests in criminal justice. WashU also has what's called the Prison Education Program, PEP, where they work directly with correctional facilities in the Missouri region to educate students there. And we've had, I think now, 1 or 2 classes that have graduated with their bachelor's degrees, or sorry, associate's degrees from the prison education program. So something else that you could look into as well. This is a question for Deja and Q. This first part, we probably won't be able to answer because I don't think anyone here has experience with the joint MPH MBA program. So you can definitely reach out to us if you have questions about that. But some tips on creating the best MPH application possible. Deja, I'll start with you.
So to create the best application possible, for me, it was about giving myself time. I don't like doing things in like a time crunch, and that can be really stressful, especially since I was working. And so I was very intentional about seeking out information for like what type of questions there might be on the application, but also taking time to reflect personally and really reevaluating, why am I attracted to public health? What skills am I hoping to gain? And how does it align with some of my other passions and interests? And then I also spent a lot of time researching each school that I was considering so I could understand their values, the curriculum that they have, and see what research was happening at the institution, either by looking at faculties or research centers. And so by having a better understanding of myself and the school, it made it a lot easier to write all those essays where I really needed to articulate why this school was the best fit for me and what I would also bring to this school. Another tip that I would give people is rely on your network as far as like revising your materials. I use the Writing Center for my undergraduate institution because we still had access after we graduated. So they became so acquainted with me that they knew me and they were like, oh, how are your applications going? And they've even checked in on me now because I used it religiously. Also lean on old teachers that you've had, or maybe people in your family who have skills in writing, to get feedback, and just keep refining and revising until you feel happy with what you have.
For me, I think the best advice is to tell your own story. A lot of people get into writing a specific format that they saw online, for example. And I did that. I remember the first personal statement that I wrote, and then I just scrapped it off and wrote my own story. I think a lot of times we underestimate what we did in our career, but once you put it on paper, you'll be surprised and you'll be proud of yourself in a sense. I agree with what my colleague said, like find someone that you know and trust and let them read it, go over it, whether you have a writing center or just a professor in your faculty that can advise you how they feel about it, how is your writing. I think I spent almost a month and a half writing my personal statement, just scratching it off. So give it time and don't rush it in a sense, because that can really dictate whether you're going to be accepted or no, whether you're going to have a scholarship or no, all these things. So put the time for it. And the second thing is recommendations. I think a lot of people just take recommendations from a professor that taught you in one semester, maybe not know them very well, but find that one mentor that really taught you well, because it really stands out when someone knows you, what they write about you, and how they formulate the letter, all these things. There's a lot of small tweaks that you might be familiar with once you read a lot of recommendation letters that can tell a lot for you as a reader what the student is. So I think pick someone that you really trust and he knows you well or she knows you well, and give it time as much as possible.
Which that reminds me with what Q just said, give them time as well. So try to think ahead of who you would like to write recommendations for you, and ask them and give them a heads up, like, hey, I'm looking at schools. Would you be willing to write a positive letter of recommendation on my behalf? Because some people might write something for you, but it may not really reflect the positive qualities that you have. So you want to be upfront about what you were looking for and what you want in a program.
And always look up the mission and the professors in that university, because Brown School might be ideal for you. It might not be, right? You want to find that place where you're going to spend 2 years and literally learn what you want to learn. So look up the professors, the project that they're working on, what research they do, and where are the places, right? You don't want to be somewhere where you don't feel comfortable. Like I had a lot of options because I applied to many universities, but then I started filtering them out. Like, okay, St. Louis, what is St. Louis? What is New York? How life would be different from the Midwest to somewhere like Boston or New York. And I tried Boston before and I was like, no, St. Louis sounds good. So always find that place where you belong in a sense.
That's great. Thank you both. Yeah, I could not agree with all of those sentiments more, especially the part of to find someone that likes you to write a letter of recommendation. That's something we always say too. I know we've just got a few minutes left, so I'm going to choose some of the questions that I think will be applicable to most folks. This question I can actually answer, and it's, since the admissions is rolling, do you recommend applying sooner rather than later? Or is it okay to wait until the fall semester is done so that those grades may be considered in the application process? Apply soon. Sooner rather than later, I think, is always going to be what we encourage folks to do, especially for us in our priority deadlines. Our first priority deadline is December 15th. And if you apply by that date, you're going to be given priority consideration for scholarship, and you're going to get your admission decision sooner too, by February 1st. So definitely apply soon if you can. However, I know that for some folks, maybe you're waiting for something that you feel will strengthen your application. Maybe you want to, as this person shared, wait until grades are done. That's okay too. If you do want to wait a little bit, it's not going to completely, throw off your chances of being considered for scholarship. It's just folks who are applying earlier get priority consideration because we review applications in the order that we receive them. So apply as early as you are ready to, and apply when you feel like your application is at its strongest. So that might be kind of a tough thing because it might be different for some folks, but reach out to us if you've got questions and we can help coach you through your individual scenario. I do want to answer this question really quickly too. Someone asked if the GRE is required for the upcoming year, and the answer is no. We are not requiring GRE for the MPH program for the fall 2021 application cycle. Let's see, I'm going to pick one question that was submitted beforehand because I know we are almost at time, and I thank you all so much for submitting all of these great questions. This question is, let's see, I'm just going to pick one randomly. What if you have a full-time job that requires you to travel? Are there any options to accommodate students with such backgrounds? Anyone want to take a stab at that one? I can, if you want me to. So if you have a full-time job, it's tough. This is a full-time program, and I think for most of us, we recommend if you are going to work to keep it part-time, especially once we transition hopefully back into a post-COVID world. You really have to be on campus and be present. So we can talk a little bit about that offline too, but I just want to be very clear that it is a full-time program right now. So having work in addition to the program could be really tricky to balance. So I know we're over time now, so I want to thank everyone so much for joining us for the session today. I'm going to share again in the chat the link to our contact form so you can stay in touch with us. So if you haven't filled that out yet, please do. A couple other things I'll leave you with, and I'm going to share my screen again. First, application deadlines to keep in mind. So we have a couple application deadlines coming up. December 15th is the first, and then our regular decision deadline is March 1. If you want to learn more, here are a bunch of ways that you can get connected with us, either through a virtual visit, talk with a current student, or another virtual info session. As I mentioned, we have virtual info sessions coming up next month, one with the Catherine Booter Center for American Indian Studies, and then again on October 15th, where we'll get even more in depth about that application process. Here's my contact information. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, I'm happy to be in touch with all of you. So please feel free to reach out and send me an email, especially if we didn't get to your questions today. I definitely want to be able to answer those for you or get you in touch with someone who can answer the question for you. And finally, here are not all, but a lot of the places where we'll be this fall virtually. So if you happen to be attending any of these virtual opportunities, or if any of these colleges or conferences are on your list, or you attend any of these colleges, be sure to look out for us there too. It'll be another way to interact with us. All right, thank you all so much. Thank you, my panelists, so much for being here and for sharing such wonderful information. We will leave you all there. I hope you all have a wonderful day and hope to hear from all of you very soon. Bye, everyone.